According to Mike Coppinger, Canelo Alvarez has just signed a 3-fight deal with PBC. Now, if this information is accurate, and Mike Coppinger normally is accurate, but not 100% of the time. So I'm saying if this information is accurate, then this is obviously a huge coup for PBC, but it's also a huge blow for Matchroom and DAZN, particularly in the United States. Eddie Hearn was holding on to Canelo Alvarez for dear life, and DAZN as well, of course. And look, this is not about hating on Eddie Hearn. I'm being objective. I'm taking emotion and whether you like someone's personality or not out of the equation and just looking at the cold, hard facts. I know a lot of fanboys find that impossible to do, but this is the ethos of my channel. If that hurts your feelings, you're in the wrong place. Looking at the cold, hard facts, Canelo, again, if this information from Coppinger is accurate, he's gone. And I'll come back on to who the 3 fights could be in just a moment. Canelo's gone. Anthony Joshua's scared of his own shadow at this point. And there's no knowing whether AJ will actually be able to get himself together mentally and climb up the heavyweight ranks and become champion once again. That's unknown at this point. There's a question mark over Anthony Joshua. So he's not the star he used to be. Dylan White is pretty much finished. You had several up-and-coming fighters like Joshua Buatsi, who's left. Lawrence Okolie has left. I know Eddie Hearn's not going to miss Lawrence Okolie at this point, but still, lots of fighters have left him. And who are replacing the fighters who have either fallen off or left? You think at all of the weight divisions. Yeah, Eddie Hearn has signed some people who are talented, like Andy Cruz. Andy Cruz, if he ends up being like most Cuban fighters, is not going to be a star. It's like signing Guillermo Rigondeaux when he turned pro. Rigondeaux was never a star. You got some Matchroom fanboys who turned up in the comment section of the video I did about Cruz signing with Matchroom, and they said, "Oh, are you ready to admit you were wrong now, Hatman? He's just signed Andy Cruz, an amazing amateur." I'm talking about Eddie Hearn's business from a commercial perspective, not from a credibility perspective because he signed an amateur that had a gold medal or whatever the case may be. No, I'm talking about commercially. Eddie Hearn's business, Matchroom, are going into a trough right now. They were on a peak. They were riding the crest of a wave when AJ was still unbeaten and all that. But after AJ lost to Andy Ruiz and then subsequently to Alexander Usyk a couple of times, and then they switched from Sky over to DAZN in the UK, Eddie Hearn's business, Matchroom, the fortunes of their business, as in their luck, has started to decline. Now they're going into a trough, and you're seeing other promoters rise up around them. There was no competition for most of the time that Matchroom were at Sky in the UK. Frank Warren was a non-factor on Box Nation, and there was pretty much nobody else out there. What Mick Hennessy doing the odd show on Channel 5? It was the Eddie Hearn show. Eddie Hearn has done great things for British boxing. He's a very charismatic guy, very funny, great salesman, and that's one of the major things involved with being a promoter is being a salesman. So it's not an insult when I say Eddie Hearn's a great salesman. That's an excellent thing to have. You know, it's an excellent attribute, a vital attribute if you want to be a good promoter is being a good salesman. And he understood the younger audience. He brought boxing into the modern age and he got younger people attached to it again. Frank Warren had lost touch. Okay, so Eddie Hearn's done lots of good things, but he has his flaws like we all do. And one of Eddie Hearn's flaws is hubris. He got too big for his boots, started thinking he was invincible, started thinking nobody could touch him and everything that he touched would turn to gold like King Midas. But it hasn't turned out that way. In fact, Eddie Hearn started getting out of touch. The same thing that happened to Frank Warren, the hubris that afflicted him, it started afflicting Eddie as well. And that has contributed to this trough that Matchroom are going into at this point. So again, look through all the weight divisions. Who does Eddie Hearn have that's a star? And I'm talking about pay-per-view stars. Conor Benn suspended. And that's why Eddie Hearn's so desperate to get that fight with Eubank on, by the way. Why he's completely disregarding PED testing protocol. I mean, it's flagrant disregard of any kind of PED protocol at all. Shocking stuff from Hearn, but it shows how desperate he is to deliver for his broadcaster. Because his broadcaster are desperate because Len Blavatnik had to put in something like $4 billion of his own money in the past couple years because DAZN were hemorrhaging so much. Obviously, that pressure is going to be then put on the shoulders of people like Eddie Hearn to deliver. So DAZN don't go into another financial black hole. So in the lighter weights, who's Eddie got? What, Sonny Edwards? He's not going to sell pay-per-views. Devin Haney's gone. Kell Brooks retired. Conor Ben suspended. Light middleweight, who's he got? Nobody. Middleweight, nobody. Super middleweight, I mean, is there somebody I'm forgetting here? He's got nobody. Light heavyweight, again, Boatsie's gone. Who's he got? Callum Smith? Come on. Cruiserweight, Okoli's gone. Heavyweight, already mentioned Anthony Joshua. Scared of his own shadow. Dylan White's finished. Now, if you want to talk about Dimitri Bivol at light heavyweight, okay. Dimitri Bivol is not a fully matchroom fighter. As far as I can see, he's actually dealt with by another promotional outfit more so than Eddie Hearn. But even then, Dimitri Bivol's not a star. Yeah, he beat Canelo, but he's not going to be selling loads of pay-per-views, is he? Unless he's fighting Canelo again, or an undisputed against Artur Beterbiev. The average Dimitri Bivol fight, most of it, they're not going to be pay-per-view. He's not a star. And at heavyweight, you want to talk about what, Hrgovic? Hrgovic is dealt with by Sauerland more so than Matchroom, and even he's not a star. So again, let's differentiate between good fighters and stars. Anyway, getting on to this report by Mike Coppinger that Canelo has signed a 3-fight deal with PBC. I had to get the Eddie Hearn stuff out the way because I know people are going to be up in arms about some of the things I'm saying here. But with the 3-fight deal, if it's true, who will those 3 fights be? Presumably the first one will be Jamal Charlo. Now, Jamal Charlo, of course, doesn't deserve to get a crack at Canelo at 168 pounds. Jamal Charlo hasn't defended his middleweight title for what, 2 years? He should have been stripped of that title long time. I don't care if he's injured. And the WBC give certain champions special treatment like this. This has been going on for many years. WBC are the worst for it. So yeah, he shouldn't be getting a shot at the weight division above 168 against Canelo, leapfrogging David Benavidez. No, that shouldn't be happening. But it looks like the way things appear, it is happening. So Canelo Alvarez versus Charlo will presumably be the first fight. If he gets past that and wins, the next one, again, I'm going to assume would have to be David Benavidez. And after that, I think what they might try and do, depending on who wins which fight, is they might try and match Canelo with Errol Spence. Oh yes, that is a fight that Errol Spence has always wanted. Canelo Alvarez. And if Errol Spence beats Terence Crawford and Canelo comes through the 2 fights I just mentioned, do not at all be shocked or surprised if you see Errol Spence jump, 3 weight divisions? Don't be shocked if that happens. Don't be shocked. Spence was just talking about it recently, saying that, yeah, the Canelo fight is absolutely on the cards. My natural walking around weight is like 170 something pounds. Yeah, I think that's the 3rd fight that they're envisioning for Canelo. If he beats Charlo and Benavidez, it will then be Errol Spence. Again, if Errol Spence comes through against Terence Crawford, and even if he loses against Crawford, depending on the manner of the loss, they might still make Canelo versus Errol Spence. So that's my take on it. I'm sure we'll find out over the next day or 2 whether this stuff is accurate from Coppinger in terms of the 3-fight deal. Huge coup for PBC. Think about their stable now. Canelo Alvarez, the biggest draw in boxing. They've got Errol Spence, Terence Crawford's on a multi-fight deal with PBC now. They've got Tank Davis, potentially Ryan Garcia as well. They just did a fight between Ryan Garcia and Tank. But according to Eddie Hearn, and why would he big up his competition if it weren't true? And he's saying that Ryan Garcia has basically done a deal with PBC. That's what he's suggesting. So think of all these stars going to PBC, including Canelo. And then they've got the Charlo brothers who both have world title belts. They've still got some association with Andy Ruiz and Deontay Wilder at heavyweight. So they're in a tremendously strong position. They're in the strongest position of any of the promoters in the United States. A much stronger position than Matchroom in the US, a much stronger position than Bob Arum, a much stronger position than Oscar De La Hoya, of course. And obviously, things ebb and flow. Every promotional company goes through peaks and troughs. But in the United States right now, it looks like PBC are coming up to a peak. They're about to be the dominant promoter in the United States once more. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section below. Canelo Alvarez, according to Mike Coppinger, signing a 3-fight deal with PBC. And potentially, this could be the end of Canelo Alvarez's career as a championship fighter. He might not make it through the 3 fights unscathed. So anyone thinking that, yeah, he's just going to bash up some PBC fighters and then go running back to Eddie Hearn, he might go running back to Eddie Hearn beltless. At which point, Eddie Hearn won't be quite so interested. I'm sure he'll be somewhat interested, but not as interested as he was before, because it's all about money. Never mind all this friendship nonsense. Promoters care about money. That's the bottom line. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast, where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.